Involved.
Oh, they're European financial interests that
international bankers. Have you ever seen?
What's more important is who has the inside information and what they're going to do. That's where they make their money and control.
we do. I don't know
How
if
they
just
set interest rates and when they do them and how they do them.
If it wasn't for dedicated Americans like you, I wouldn't be here today. I'd still be working for the IRS. One dedicated American who enlightened me was a lady named D.V. Kidd. And one day she was on the radio back in 1996, seems like a long time ago, and she was challenging the listeners of this particular talk show to look into the federal income tax. And little did she know that one of the listeners to that show was an IRS special agent dedicated to abiding by his oath to the Constitution. But I took up the challenge, spent about 2 years of part-time, off-duty research, faced with a choice of remaining or being fearful, keeping quiet, protecting my career, protecting my paycheck and my pension, or exhibiting some courage, some spine. I decided to speak up.
Take note of the overseers of the destruction of the dollar. This is a mighty temple befitting the gods of antiquity. The Federal Reserve Building. There sit the enablers of the wars of empire.
For one thing, it's impossible to fund an empire without fiat money, just because the expense would be enormous. I mean, for instance, if we were on the gold standard and we only accepted precious metals, you'd have to mine it or do something to come up with it to pay us all off, and it's a lot easier just to print.
It's not a government agency, it's a cartel. It's no different than a sugar cartel or an oil cartel or a banana cartel. This happens to be a banking cartel that is made up of the big, giant banking corporations so they can plunder the marketplace. That's what cartels always do.
A lot of Republicans say they believe in the free market, but I would argue that as long as you support having a central bank, you don't believe in a free market whatsoever.
But now they had a particular problem which is similar to all cartels. How do you enforce the cartel agreement? They brought the government in as a partner.
The Federal Reserve loans money to Congress, and Congress pays it back to the Federal Reserve with interest. And the Federal Reserve's loaning them money that they're fabricating out of thin air.
That's all the Federal Reserve Act is a cartel agreement so that nobody can escape from it. If you try and violate the cartel agreement, you go to jail. That's what the Federal Reserve System is.
There are thousands of police officers, thousands of city councils, tens of millions of Americans that need to know the truth, and it's up to you to bring it to them. The IRS is administering the income tax beyond what the law and the Constitution allow.
Nothing here is useless, everyone's in pain. We see the signs, we're helpless and the ignorance remains. A sneaking premonition, a black car motorcade.
So what would you do if you had the power, the monopoly power to create the nation's money? Wow, what a thought, huh? You know what you would do? You would create lots of it, and lots more of it, and as much of it as you can. And you would benefit from that, and that's what the Federal Reserve System does. They have no limit as to how much money they can create. They create it literally out of nothing.
So that your children can be debt slaves to the Chinese the rest of their lives.
Prices are not going up, folks. It's the value of the dollar going down. It's called inflation. Every dollar that you earn, every dollar that you invest, every dollar that you put in some kind of a monetary or dollar-denominated investment, whether it be a savings account or an insurance policy or a retirement fund, anything that's based on dollars, every day that passes, a little bit of that value is chiseled away. They're stealing money from you. So that's how you are the victim. Interesting fact, if you had 25 cents back when I was a boy, 25 cents or 3 dimes in your pocket, which were backed 90% by silver. You could buy a gallon of gasoline with it, cost $0.25 a gallon. I remember that. Today, if you've got 3 dimes or $0.25 backed with 90% silver in them, you melt down the silver, you sell the silver and get Federal Reserve notes, you can still buy 1 gallon of gasoline with it. So you see, prices really haven't gone up. Gas hasn't gone up. Housing hasn't gone up. Groceries have not gone up. The fact is that the value of the dollar is going down, and that's a result of the Federal Reserve System. That's a result of the scam, and you are the victim because that means you're losing your purchasing power.
The permanent government made of both Republicans and Democrats that perpetuates itself with welfare and with warfare. Do they risk their own futures and their livelihoods and their own money to recover any energy? Do they take enormous risks of substantial loss? Do they recover it? Do they refine it? Do they market it? Do they transport it to your neighborhood gas station? Of course they don't. Just how much gas do they put in your tank for $25 billion a year? None. Not a drop. They have destroyed the dollar. They have lied to you about caring for the retirement money that you have sent their way over a lifetime. It's squandered. It's gone. Toast. Vapor. Dust.
But unfortunately, what we're facing is that we have become a nation that has lost confidence. And I think what we're seeing here, occurring here in the last year or so, is our confidence is coming back. Confidence that freedom does work, and that we don't have to depend on the government from cradle to grave. It's obvious the foreign policy is a failure. It's obvious that the Federal Reserve System is a failure. It's obvious that we shouldn't even have the IRS and the tax system we have.
Young people want something new and to wake up this country so that they don't get stuck with these huge bills and maybe just get the government off their back and out of their hair and out of their wallet. But they need to get a chance to get out of this system and take care of themselves and restore confidence in freedom.
The Constitution gives the Congress the right to coin money. And again, that's coin. That's using a term where metals would be being used.
Your money, the nation's money, is created by private banks. Not the government, not by you. You don't take gold into the mint and say, here's my gold, give me a gold coin. That's how money used to be created.
Half of every transaction is currency. So if someone controls your currency and can manipulate it, there is no free market because they're controlling half of the transaction.
No, you go to the banks or anywhere you want to go and you get paper money that's created by the banks. By the banks, not by the government. It says United States of America on it, but it's not created by America. It's created by the banks, by the cartel.
There are still approximately 3,000 IRS special agents who haven't gotten the message yet. Maybe they never will. No, we're going to show the employees of the IRS and the employees of the federal government at large who's telling the truth and who's not.
It's like going into the casino. You know that when you put that quarter or that dollar into the slot machine, you may win now and then, but a certain percent every time you pull the handle. Every time you make an investment or a financial transaction in America today, this giant Federal Reserve casino, they take a little percentage of your money. And the longer you stay in that game, the more they take from you. So that at the end of your productive lifetime, after say 40, 50, 60 years of earning your money, they have taken about 98% of it. It went to the federal government and to the banks that are partners in the Federal Reserve System.
We would not have the most deceitful, dishonest, regressive tax, and that's the tax of inflation. And in order to get rid of that, you get rid of the Federal Reserve System. What?
The people must reclaim charge of their own affairs. We must take charge of things like our money.
Because that is where the power is. The power to create money means that you have the political and economic power, and it's secretive, and that eventually will have to end.
It's only because they can make money that they have all this power.
They literally have the money machines.
They have the money machines. They can print it. They can do whatever they want to do.
And we must reclaim our liberty and our peace and our prosperity. And that means, ladies and gentlemen, that means no more foreign wars. That means no more central banks to finance those wars. No more central planners. No more bailouts and billions for the bankers. No more worthless, irredeemable paper money.
Matter of fact, it is going to end because all paper currency self-destruct, and we're in the beginning of the end stages of the destruction of the dollar. So we will have the opportunity. Let us strive for the day that we as individuals who want to use gold and silver won't have our gold and silver coins robbed from us and threatened with prison because we want to follow the Constitution.
How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and